first get together, who are you? And most people tell me loving, creative, joyful, because that's what we really are in essence. So even just doing the first level, which is one weekend, people wake up to the potential of themselves. And they begin to understand how all the gates work and how the three aspects of themselves, which I'll talk about that in a minute, work. And that is a wow for them. That is like the eyes opened, the doors open. Now, if they choose to continue, it goes higher and higher. The next level is another weekend. And that's when they really nail down the inner dialogue. They really begin to understand about each gate, and so on and so forth. So you start with somebody who is absolutely confused, in a lot of emotional pain, maybe not in their life path, maybe not in a good relationship. And you end up, as you proceed, you end up in a place where you are confident, where you are grounded in your authentic self, where you know and you have tools how to take care of your life, how to communicate, how to be expressive, how to be creative, how to be a leader in your own life. Really, at the end of this, people are powerful leaders of their own life and the life of their community. It's self-actualization.
It makes a big difference in their life. It really does have an impact.
Huge. It's like if you take a picture of before and after, it's like you can't recognize the person.
Really?
I'm talking about not necessarily how they look, but their life.
No, I understand. How they feel, how they act.
How they feel, how they are taking responsibility, how they're working with the different facets, how they're being in their relationships, how they're expressing emotions, how they're taking care of their body, how they're walking their life path, how they know to meditate and connect to that other realm. It's just, there isn't as comprehensive training, and I've tried a lot of different trainings out there outside of my own training as a psychotherapist. I've tried a lot of programs out there, and nothing is as comprehensive and at the same time as creative. We laugh a lot. We use all the creative arts. We write, we draw, we move, we make sounds, we make music. We do emotional exercises, energetic, energy-related exercises. We do a lot of meditations. It's just a pleasure, even though we go very deep into places that are painful or unresolved or difficult. It's full of life and expression and creativity, and that's very important. And it's a very spiritually supportive method.
You mentioned this is hard work. It's not easy, right? You really have to work at this.
You have to work. I think that we're here living life, right? And life is not always easy. We know that. We might as well do this work because when we go out of this world, when we pass, we don't take anything with us other than the spirit, our spirit. And so we want to be able to tend to this spirit. I think it's the most important thing to do. Wow. So you might as well do it in a process, in a method that's so expressive and creative and meditational and fun.
Yes, no question about that. For the listeners of this program, I want to point out we're talking to Nomi Bachar. Her practice is called Gates of Power, and she's headquartered in Manhattan, in New York. And when I referred to earlier about Manhattan, we didn't mention, but this was the day that New York was supposed to be bombarded by snow, up to 3 feet of snow. They haven't gotten 3 feet yet, but there is still some snow falling in the New York area. Anyway, it didn't turn out to be as bad as originally they thought it was going to be.
Yes.
I just wanted to make that clarification. Let me ask you one or two other important questions. Number one, the aspects of oneself. There are three of them.
Yes.
Explain those to me.
Yes. I want to say, and it's a little bit of a joke, but it's a way of explaining this, that let's think of maybe three people that are sitting inside of us. One is our emotional self. And that is the emotional side of us, where all the emotions and all the emotional experiences that we had live there. That's kind of like the child self, some call it in psychology. So pure, very, very emotional. The anger sits there, the fear, the love, the joy, everything sits there. So that's the emotional self. Then we have the twin brother, which is the defensive self, the twin brother or the twin sister. The defensive self is something that we cultivate to survive our circumstances. And it's not really who we are, but it's our defense mechanism. It's our strong suit, so to speak. We maybe had to be very tough. Like I grew up in Israel in a lot of wars and in a very tough mentality. So some of my defensive self was toughness, which I had to work on softening it. Some people become charmers or manipulators or controllers. Some people become isolators. Some people become caretakers, pleasers. So there's a lot of ways that we conjure to protect ourselves. That's the defensive self. And most of the time, that self does not allow the emotional self to express itself because we don't want to be vulnerable to the world. So the big brother, let's say, the defensive self, says to the emotional self, just stay in the closet. We don't want people to see that we're frightened or insecure or sad. We have to show a good face. So that's the defensive self. And left to their own devices, these two would never create growth because it's it's not a winning formula here. But luckily, we have a third aspect, and that is called the expanded self. And the expanded self is the part of us that is the divine spark within. It's the unconditional love, it's the wisdom, it's the intuition, it's the ability to witness and see things from a more true place. So that side of us, that aspect of us, really needs to be the leader of this little group. But in most people, it is not. And so in Gates of Power, we take a lot of time to do the internal dialogues between those three and to encourage everybody to step into their big shoes of their expanded self and to begin to live life identifying with that aspect, and having that aspect be coaching and helping the two other ones to transform themselves, helping the emotional self to feel and release whatever it needs to release and become more joyful, more expressive, and secure, and helping the defensive self to be less uptight. And slowly, those two can soften and heal, and it's a much healthy environment, inner environment, like inner family, so to speak. Does that make
sense?
Question.
It does.
It's kind of hard to explain.
I know. It's, as I say, it's pretty complex. You use the term self-actualization. How long does it take to reach that? I guess it varies with individuals, but typically. It varies. Individuals and their abilities and their commitment to that, and but in this work, by the time you every step of the way, you're closer. You do level 1, you're closer. You do level 2, you're closer. But I would say that to get the basic tools, because it's a lifelong, you continue to actualize as you go through the stages of your life. But I would say a couple of years, which is, I don't think, a long time to get all those basic abilities to continue self-actualizing in your life. All right. Let me get one other thing in here. Obviously, now I know you work with groups, you work with individuals. This is primarily an in-person thing with you, right? You don't do this on the telephone with people in California or Florida.
I do. I mean, a lot of the times I do Skypes and phones. But what I encourage people is to do a group. If somebody is in California, come and do like a level 1 or a level 2, and then continue by Skype, and then maybe visit and do other levels. It's good to do it with people, because the sharing in a group is very powerful, very useful.
Okay.
And of course, I actually have a couple of clients that are in California. It's just that they come back and forth, and so we see each other face to face, in between, and they've done a lot of workshops. And I have people in Israel, I have people in Germany, I have, so there are a lot of ways that I can coach and
train.
Again,
they can get information on this on your website. I also want to mention the book. You've written a book, the same thing. I mean, it's called the same thing. Tell me about that. And where is it available?
Yes, it's called Gates of Power, Actualize Your True Self. It was published by Findhorn. They're in the UK. And it's accessible on Amazon.
Okay, good.
So it's just Gates of Power, Actualize Your True Self.
Well, Nomi, I must tell you, we've gone through the half hour just like that. This is such a fascinating subject. I'm sure I could talk to you for another hour on this, and we wouldn't cover everything in detail. But for anybody listening, please refer to Nomi's website. There's great information on that. You can find out how to get in touch with Nomi. Her website is, just as the name of her practice is, it's pretty simple, gatesofpower.com, gatesofpower.com. Nomi Bachar, our guest. Her practice, Gates of Power, and she's headquartered in New York. Nomi, thank you for your time so much. This has been fascinating. We appreciate it. Okay?
Thank you, Doug. Thank you.
You are very welcome. And that wraps it up for this edition of Close Up, everybody. I'm Doug Llewellyn, and we thank you for being with us. Hope you enjoyed this. I found it pretty fascinating, to say the least. We'll look forward to seeing you next time right here on Close Up Talk Radio. Bye for now. Have a great day.